Hello everyone, thanks for watching Edupedia World videos. I am Neeti Saxena and I will be teaching you principles and practices of management. This particular video covers some part of history of management which tells you how the management theories and management principles evolved. When we look into the evolution of management theories, we can say that it started way back in 1890, wherein the scientific management theory was introduced, and since then, a lot of changes have happened. With these changes, we can say that the primitive organizations which were established in the 1800s, they were very different from the today's organizations. Today's organizations are very flexible, very adaptive, they are globalized, they have a different outlook towards working, whereas the primitive organizations, they were very rigid and they were not at all employee friendly. So, in this particular video, I would be covering some part of the evolution of management, wherein I would be covering specifically the scientific management theory. The other theories I have covered in the other videos of module 2. So, I suggest you and I request you that you should go through the other modules, other videos of the same module as well to understand the different theories. As of now, let's just first understand that what are these theories and how have they been classified. The theories have been classified into three categories: classical theory, neoclassical theory, and modern theory. Classical theory comprises of those initial theories which were introduced in the 1800s, which is scientific management theory and organization theory. Post that came human relation approach and behavioral science approach. The modern theories are very recent, which are the quantitative approach towards management, systematic, and contingency approach. In this video, I'll be able to cover the scientific management theory of the classical theory. The classical perspective, which was the base of classical theory, was based on increasing the organization's efficiency so that overall productivity of the organization could be increased. The classical theory comprises of three theories: scientific theory, bureaucratic theory, and administrative theory. Scientific theory was given by three scientists: Taylor, Henry Grant, Frank, and Lillian Gilbert. Frank and Gilbert did one particular study, whereas Taylor did another, and Henry Grant gave another theory, which in totality is called as the scientific management theory. The scientific management theory arose in part from the need to increase productivity. See, what happened was that initially, when the organizations were developed, the productivity and the efficiency of the organizations were very low. There was a lot of misuse of the resources, lot of resource wastage was happening, raw material used to get waste, the efficiency of the employees were not high. There was shortage of skilled labor. There was no labor which was particularly skilled in one particular task. So gradually, the head of the organizations, they started realizing that because of the lack of skilled labor, the productivity and efficiency of the organization was low. So the only way to expand the productivity, they thought, was to raise the efficiency of the workers, and that is how these scientists, they proposed these theories. Taylor gave wonderful concept, uh, and that is the reason he is called as the father of scientific management. He said that there should be one best way for a job to be done. Every job that has to be done in the organization should have one particular standardized work, a standardized way of performing that particular work. When we say standardized work, that means the organization should identify that in case of this particular work has to be done in the organization, what is the best way of doing it? And that best way should be then taught to the employees of that organization. He also said that right person for the right job should be selected and the correct tools and equipment should be provided to that person. That means he was the first person who said that the work should be allocated to employees based on the skill sets that they have. So he said three particular things. That means, one, the job should be given to a person based on the skill set. Second, the job should be classified or identified in a way that the best way of doing that job should be identified, which should be communicated and communicated to the employee, and the employee should be trained that this is the way of implementing that particular job. So when you implement a standardized way of performing a particular job, automatically the efficiency would go high because the resources will not go waste. So as you can see, the last point, he also said providing an economic incentive to the worker. He said that when this worker is performing his duties, then an economic incentive should also be given to the worker so that the employee feels satisfied and motivated to do that particular job. So these were the four golden principles initially which were introduced by Taylor, which said right person for the right job, best way of doing that job, give training to the employees, and also give some kind of incentive to the employees. Let's go through the first point. He said develop a science for each element of an individual's work which will replace the old rule of thumb method. Old rule of thumb method was basically when there was one way of doing a particular job, and he said that that should be removed. The standardized way should be developed, and then that standardized way of doing a job should be communicated to the employees, and they should be trained and developed based on that standardized work. Let's go through the third point. He also said that the management should heartily cooperate with the workers so as to ensure that all work is done in accordance with the principles of the science that has been developed. He said that in case if you keep your employees happy, if you keep your workers happy, then the employees and workers would be motivated to adopt that standardized way of doing the job. And he also said that automatically the employees would then feel more responsible and belong towards the organization. When Taylor said that some incentive should be introduced for the workers, he said that he coined it as differential rate system, wherein he said that the employers should pay more productive workers higher rate than the others. He said that some particular rate of incentive or rate of remuneration should be fixed. Workers who are performing better or who are producing better should be given higher wages than compared to the workers who are not able to produce that much of work. So these were the initial principles which were introduced by Taylor. After Taylor came another scientist by the name of Henry Gantt. He also talked about the differential rate system, but he uh, made it more scientific, wherein he proposed that every worker who finished day's assigned workload would win 50% bonus. Along with the 50% bonus that is given to the worker, he also said that the supervisor who is looking after that particular worker should also be additionally paid so that the supervisor also feels motivated and he can push his workers to perform better. See, look at the third point. The supervisor would earn a bonus for each worker who reached the daily standard, plus an extra bonus if all the workers reached it. So he said that Taylor did propose the differential rate system, wherein he talked about giving incentive to the workers. Gantt improvised this Taylor's differential rate system, wherein he said that along with the workers, the supervisor should also be given some kind of incentive so that the entire team of that supervisor and the workers feel motivated enough to increase the productivity. And so he originated a charting system for production, wherein he said that the production of every worker and that particular team should be charted, and then the incentive should be given to the worker and the supervisor. After Gann, there were two other scientists who came into picture. They were Frank and Lillian Gilbert. They focused on increasing worker productivity through the reduction of wasted motion. They said that in case if you eradicate those wasted motions, then automatically the production or the efficiency of the organization would increase. For example, if you have to produce 10 pens and for 10 pens you require let's say 100 units of input. He said that this 100 units of input, if reduced to 80 units of input to produce those 10 pens, then automatically the efficiency would increase. Efficiency is basically output upon input. So if the input is reduced for the same level of output, then also the efficiency increases. So Frank and Gilbert said that yes, of course, the output needs to be increased, but at the same time, if you reduce the input to produce the same output, then also the efficiency of the organization and the productivity of the organization would increase. So he said that those wasted motions, those unwanted motions should be eradicated, and one particular standardized process of work should be developed and should be communicated to the employees. So, in totality, we can say the contributions of scientific management theory has been very, very important in laying down the foundation of the management theories. Let's just go through the contributions. The scientific management theory demonstrated the importance of compensation for performance for the first time. They say that to increase the performance, there should be some kind of additional compensation which should be given to the employees. It also initiated the careful study of task and job. It demonstrated the importance of personnel and their training. Personnel are the employees who are working in the organization. But there were certain limitations of scientific management theory. It did not appreciate the social context of work and higher needs of workers. Why? Because there could be certain people who are not only motivated by incentive, but they could be also motivated by some kind of recognition. So that part was missing, because the scientific management theory only mentioned about giving incentives to increase the performance. It also did not acknowledge variance among individuals. Variance, again, the same thing, that the individuals are different who are working in the organization. One individual might get motivated because of certain monetary incentives. The other individual can get motivated because of a challenging task. Maybe an individual gets motivated because of the recognition that he gets in the organization. So that part was missing. They also tended to regard workers as uninformed and ignored their ideas. There was no involvement of workers in the decision making of the organization. So that part was missing. Workers and unions began to oppose his approach because they feared that working harder or faster would exhaust whatever work was available, causing layoffs. So there was some kind of exploitation of workers also. Workers started feeling that maybe because of the increase of the productivity, layoffs might happen in the organization. It placed undue pressure on employees to perform at faster and faster levels. As a result, more workers joined unions and thus reinforced a pattern of suspicions and mistrust that shaded labor relations for decades. So there were some positive factors of scientific management theory, and there were certain limitations of scientific management theory. But overall, yes, we say that the scientific management theory laid down the basic concept of management principles, and so we say that Fayol, who was the first scientist who proposed the scientific management theory, he is called as the father of scientific management. Moving further, I would request you to go through the second part of this particular module, which is module 2, in which you will be able to see that I have explained the various other theories. I will just take you quickly to that chart wherein I have mentioned the different theories. See, I have told you that there is the classical theory of management, neoclassical and modern. In this particular video, I have covered scientific management theory. Organization theory is covered in the part 2 of module 2. So I would request you to kindly go through that particular video as well. Thank you so much for watching this video.